I think, summarize with 4 points that we can all agree on. First is that in assessing the PFS endpoint, the critical nature and the separation of variability from bias. And that's something that took quite some time for us to get to, but I think is really important. And from the perspective of variability, I think one little anecdote for variability is how bright are those lights? And I might say, they're pretty bright. And Will might say, they're really, really bright. And Pazder, who's in the spotlight all the time, might say, what lights?
Not bright at all.
Right? Okay, so variability versus bias. And I think we need to focus on the bias. And particularly, we're coming to some agreement on the concept of the differential discordance between two treatment arms. That is there a difference between the local and the central review, and is that difference in timing, does it differ between the treatment arm and the control arm? Because that's really when we would have bias, and looking at those that's the situation where we really need to look at these, at doing either 100% or an audit for review. I think we also are now much better understanding, thanks to the work of Lori Dodd and others, about that blinded independent review is not the answer, and that it induces its own set of problems through the informative censoring that is put in place, because patients are taken off of treatment based on local assessment, and you can never recreate what would have happened in that patient when the blinded review says that was not a progression, that patient should have kept being treated. We don't know how to deal with that. We can't deal with that. And so to say blinded review is the gold standard, it's not, in my opinion. It has its own set of problems. And finally, I think we all are in agreement with PFS as an endpoint. When you think about it, it needs to be clinically relevant. I don't think anyone on this panel, even though maybe it's a PFS love fest, is going to agree with a 1 month PFS as being clinically meaningful. We clearly need months, not weeks. And if we can agree with that as a oncology community, even that would move us forward